Daphne, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag. I hope you get to see my reading taste a little bit more. Hopefully you like it or jive with me. Let me know if you've done this tag in the comments too. I'd love to check out your videos and then maybe we can get to know each other. I would love to make some more Booktube friends. I'm like a little shy about it. I'm being a little weird, but let me know and maybe we can build something. Don't know. Okay, moving on. The first question is the best book I've read so far this year, and I gotta say that is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I absolutely love this book. Honestly, it could also be like one of the most surprising books I read this year. I definitely went into this with like no expectations. I thought the premise sounded cool. It's about this man who's like in this Groundhog's Day situation where he keeps reliving the same day, but each day he wakes up in a different body and he has to solve the mystery of who killed Evelyn Hardcastle to be able to escape the loop, right? I thought that sounded interesting. I wasn't like pressed to read it, but I started reading it on audiobook and it just captured my interest so much that I needed to buy this physical copy. And literally everything that Stuart Turton introduces into the story is important. Like, the only thing is it's really long, but everything he adds into the story ties together at the end so beautifully. And it's funny because at the end, the main character, he's like, I know the answer's right in front of me. I know it's right in front of me, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. And me as the reader, I'm right there with him. I'm like, dude, I'm not seeing it. What is happening? What is happening? And it's just such a fun time. But it makes so much sense once the reveals are laid bare to you. And I could not recommend this book highly enough. I recommended it to my mother and she's listening to the audiobook as well and she's really enjoying it so far. I recommended it to my other friend, Allie, who has her own little book club with her hometown friends. I'm trying to like sneak into her book club. I'm kind of waiting for her to send me the invite, but like I'm down to give her recs whenever. But like the complexity is so beautiful. Just if you love things to do with time and loops and how you can change the script of like what's already happened in that same day, like you're gonna eat this up. And yeah, you should definitely pick this up if you haven't already. This was my favorite book this year. One of my favorite romances I read this year was Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. This was the first book in her Hoops series. So this is between Lotus and August. I'm pretty sure that's her name. And August has recently been drafted into the NBA, and Lotus has this boyfriend who has also been drafted into the NBA. Lotus and August had like a chance meeting at a bar. They really connected. August was like, whoa, who is this woman? I want to get to know her. And when he finds out she has a boyfriend, he's like, damn, like the timing's not right. But like they're in each other's circles throughout the following months and years. He's just like in love with her, holding a flame for her, even though she's been tied down to this other guy. Lotus is like not vibing with her current boyfriend, but due to circumstances, she's stuck in the relationship with him. This book has heavy trigger warnings. I would definitely look them up. They relate to like domestic violence, SA, and a lot of other scary things happen in this book. I literally had no idea going in. Like I went in blind. I did not know there were gonna be these severe trigger warnings, but I was on the edge of my seat. Like I almost didn't want to read it because I was like, this is a thriller book and not a romance book, but there is great romance in it, but it is like so heart-wrenching and terrifying, the things that are happening. It was a roller coaster ride. I literally would get up in the middle of the night as I'm like reading it on my Kindle and jump out of bed just to pace my apartment because I was just like reeling from all the tension and not good tension and like fear and drama and devastation, just like everything. Like if you want to feel something, this book will make you feel something. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book as well. I would recommend it, but with like the disclaimer that tread carefully. Then the next question is the best sequel I've read so far this year, and I'm just gonna say Blockshot. This is the second book in the Kennedy Ryan series, and Kennedy Ryan is gonna have to do with another question. So this one is between Jared and Banner. They are both sports agents, so that's how they tie into the series. Jared is the stepbrother of August from the first book. This one is less thriller-esque, but I will say the tension and the drama is still top tier. I rated this book 5 stars as well. The other 2 books I talked about, I rated 5 stars as well. Obviously they're favorites. And in this story, Jared and Banner had a bit of a thing in college for a brief moment, but there was a devastating event where Banner lost total trust and faith in Jared, and she like wrote him off as an enemy, didn't want to speak to him ever again. Now, in the current timeline, it's 10 years later, and they're both living in the same place. They obviously run in the same circles, and Jared wants a second chance with Banner. He's a self-proclaimed bad person. He doesn't think he's just like very cutthroat. Like, he will do whatever he needs to get what he wants. He will step on people's backs to like take what he needs, you know? And the thing that he needs right now is Banner, and he is determined to steal her away from her current boyfriend. And damn, I gotta say, this book was hot, very, very hot. I will also say that Banner is a mid-sized to plus-size main heroine. So if you are looking for more diversity in your reading, just FYI. And also, she is of like, I think, Mexican-American descent, so I love the diversity. I mean, Kennedy Ryan is a Black author. The two main characters in Longshot are also people of color, Black characters. So Black love, we'll love it here. Tension was amazing. Again, there's some shady stuff going on. Obviously, she has a boyfriend and Jared doesn't care, so FYI if that's gonna be like not cool with you, just FYI. But it was amazing, it was so good. The third question is a new release you haven't read yet but want to, so I have a couple books in this category. The first one is a contemporary romance. It's Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is the second book in the Ballinger Sisters series. The first one was It Happened One Summer, which I really enjoyed. It was very popular. I'm sure you've heard of it. The second book has to do with her sister. I believe it's like a friends to lovers storyline. We're back in like this fishing town on the West Coast, I believe. I really enjoyed the first one, so I'm excited to get back into that world and pick up this book. Also, I'm really interested in reading Portrait of a Thief still. This is like an Asian heist story, also having to do with, I think, maybe, I don't know if it's like colonialism, but basically like stealing people's culture for the Western world and just like being shady about it and like being like, oh, this is art, but you've like stealing artifacts from a culture that doesn't appreciate you taking their shit. And I'm interested to see how that discussion ties into this heist story. I think maybe there's been mixed reviews on this, I'm not sure, but I'm still intrigued. And also the cover is beautiful. I think it's stunning. I'll probably just read it from my library. I think I have it like in my list, I don't know. I'm probably just gonna read this from the library. And then the last book I'm gonna mention for the new releases is Glow by Raven Kennedy. This is the fourth book in the Plated Prisoners series. The first one is Guild. I will say this series is quite slow in its build-up. It's a fantasy romance, but I would say it's fantasy like majorly first, and romance is like really low down on the priorities in the story. But I'm just like so invested in our main heroine. I believe her name is Oren, and she just has these really interesting powers. So this book is about Oren, who is completely gilded in gold, like not painted. She is physically gold. She was turned gold by King Midas. He is the king known for being able to just touch anything and make it gold, right? I can't say much else without spoiling the plot, but I will say there is some drama going on with that. Oren is in a gilded cage. He keeps her as his like prized pet and like escort or whatever. She is in love with him, but he is not it. He doesn't really care about her. He's very manipulative with her. There's another hero that will eventually come in, and that's, I think, why people get really frustrated, because if they don't know, they're like, is this the romance with Midas? Am I supposed to be rooting for him as like an anti-hero? But no, like, fuck that guy, don't worry about him. There's another better man on the horizon when you get into book 2 and 3. You're gonna have to be patient with it. Just read it as a fantasy first. But the way book 3 ended, I am so, I just wanna get into book 4. I'm just like nervous because Oren is in trouble and I just don't know how she's gonna recover from this. Just devastating. Like, let's just say somebody took something from her that is like literally part of her, and how do you come back from that? Like, I was literally heartbroken at the end of it. Like, I'm here for the romance, but I'm also like mainly here for Oren, which is a nice change because I am a romance reader and I'm just like always here for the romance. And like, obviously I'm obsessed with the romance too, but like also I'm here for Oren's story. Like, what is gonna happen to her? So yeah, I'm just excited to get to book 4. And then the fourth question is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I'm just gonna briefly pass over this one because I'm not really like a person that keeps their eye on new releases that closely. Like, I just watch Booktube and that's how I hear about new stuff. I'm excited about Daphne by Josh Malerman. It's a thriller about some kind of stalker woman who stalks like a basketball team, and it has my name and they do basketball. I've talked about this book a couple times on my channel. I just think it's freaking hilarious and I'd love to have a book just called Daphne on my shelf. So I am excited about that. I will probably buy it, like honestly, just because it has my name. And then the next one I'm excited about is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I don't know if I will read this year, but if I have to pick a book to be excited about, I'm gonna pick a Kennedy Ryan book because she has been knocking them out of the park for me and I just want to read more of her books. Question 5, the biggest disappointment, and I'll have to go with Death on the Nile. I was very excited to read an Agatha Christie. She's just like so well known. Meg with Books loves Agatha Christie, so I was very excited about this. I love this cover and I got it for a good deal on Book of the Month, but I did not vibe with this book. And also learning more about Miss Agatha, I'm like, honey, you are not it. What is your problem? Like, me as a Black woman, I do not want to, even though like Agatha's dead, I do not want to read books by a racist woman. There were some like sussy kind of racist comments made in this book, but it literally went over my head because I didn't expect anything less from entitled old-timey rich white people. I'm sorry. I mean, they were just like that sometimes. Not everybody, but like it didn't surprise me. So yeah, that was really disappointing. I ended up giving this 2 stars. I was not interested in the mystery at all, just like a lot of talking. I felt like the writing style was not it either. I felt very lost in the world. Like I couldn't visualize things that well, and the detective like figured it out, but he didn't have any real hard evidence, and I feel like the killers could have gotten away with it. The next question is the biggest surprise. So like I said earlier, 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle was a major surprise. But besides that, I also was really surprised by The Dragon's Bride. This is an erotic romance, a monster romance. I literally was a bit tipsy when I bought this on Kindle. And I don't regret it. It was a really, really fun time. So this is between Briar and Soul. Soul is a humanoid dragon in this other realm. Briar is a woman hard on her luck. She's coming from like a really abusive husband and she's just trying to escape him. So she makes a deal with the devil and sells her soul for like 7 years. She thinks she's gonna be doing like hard labor stuff, but instead she's basically sold off to be the bride of this humanoid dragon, Soul. Soul is actually like a really gentle giant. He's so sweet and caring and thoughtful for Briar. He just wants her to be happy, but he does have his own motivation because in this world, the monsters and creatures are more magical when they intermix with humans. So his like dragon kingdom community has been really struggling since it's been generations since they've had a human in their bloodline. So he really wants to have a baby with Briar. But since Briar's only there for 7 years, she's like, I don't want to have to leave my baby behind because that's part of the bargain. But a part of it also with like the demon contract and stuff is that she has to consent to everything. So there's a lot of consent in the book. Reading monster romances just can take things to a whole other level. Like, they're monsters, so you can make their anatomy whatever you want. So in this scenario, Soul is endowed with 2 eggplants, we'll say. And it makes for a fun time. Next question, new favorite author, short and sweet, Kennedy Ryan. Obviously, I've been talking about her a lot. Next question is newest fictional crush. I will say Jared from Blockshot and also Castile from the Blood and Ash series. Blood and Ash series is like a love and hate relationship. It's like fun for the romance, but like you barely get any romance, and then the plot is just like, oh my god, kill me. It's just so slow, and I'm like, oh my god, I am not even having fun. I'm making myself read this. But I do love Castile. He is a simp for Poppy for sure. He is the person that like motivates me to continue with the series. I'm pretty much done with the 3rd book. I have like 60 pages left in it. I don't think I will be continuing. We'll talk about that another time, but that man, love him. I love his passion for his woman, and that's enough said. Then the next question is newest favorite character. So I put 2. I put Damia from the 5th season. She is a young girl who has this power that affects the earth. There are these people that are able to do this, but they are seen as like witches and evil, and like people despise them. And I just really felt for this little girl, and her family literally just like found out about that and just like threw her in a shed and was like, ew, get away from us. And my heart just hurt so much for her, but she just wanted better for herself, and she was so curious about life, and yeah, she was a sweet little girl. And the 5th season is an amazing book for sure. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I mean, it was a beautiful book, but like the end didn't fill me with the spark I felt a 5-star would need, so I just put it at like a high 4. But yeah, I really felt for Damia. And then the other character is London from Love and Other Disasters. London is a non-binary character. This is the first non-binary romance book I've ever read, and I just felt for them so much. I just love them to pieces. What else can I say about it? Like, I was bawling I mean, that's kind of spoiling it for another question, but I just felt for them so much, and they were also a simp for the person they loved. I just eat that up, and I would definitely recommend that book if you're looking for a queer romance. It was a good time. This book is about a cooking competition, so we have London and what's her name? Delilah? Is her name Delilah? I think her name is Delilah. I'm not gonna check. And they're both on this cooking competition show. That aspect was fun. I'm vegan, so sometimes reading about them like skinning a fish is like kind of gross, but the plot was still interesting. I was rooting for their romance so much, and I just really felt for London and their story. Okay, and then that perfectly ties into the next question, which is a book that made you cry. I literally have a vlog that will eventually come out. I'm so behind on vlogs, where I am crying reading Love and Other Disasters. We get to the end, and like the impact that London has made with the public, and how people have felt they've changed so much in their lives, seeing their representation on TV, being able to connect with their other family members in their own households, and I was just crying. I felt it so much. It was just like the sweetness and the heartache and like the hope, and just the hope of it, and I was crying. I'll get that vlog out to you soon, I hope. Another question is a book that made you happy. This is like a super short, I don't even know if you can call it a novella. Like, what's smaller than a novella? It was like 60 pages on Kindle, but it was this book called Missile Foe. This is by Kimberly Lemming. It's in the Mead Mishap series. It's like 1.5. I read the first book in the series a couple days ago. It was called The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, but this like 1.5 installment was just hilarious. So this takes place in like a fantasy world. The heroines are Black women, which again, I'm just loving that for me. So the main character is Ruby. Her father is a swordsmith. He makes weapons in this old-timey fantasy world where there are demon creatures. So in the first book, the demons have been released from this curse, so they're no longer like banished from the human world. There's this new demon that lives in the forest near Ruby's home. Her father tried to take some ore from this demon's land like that he's claimed, because obviously he needs them to run his business. And the demon, it's a fox demon. The fox demon cursed her father, and the curse makes all his weapons like crass, rude beings. Like he'll be trying to sell a dagger, and the dagger will just like sassy tell off the customer and be like, yeah, you're ugly, like you couldn't get any booty. Like, it was so ridiculous, but I was laughing out loud and I was having a great time. But Ruby's like, I gotta try to break this curse for my father. Like, we're not gonna have any money. We're already struggling because the king is like being greedy or whatever. She takes one of the swords, and the sword is just the life of the party. They are killing me. Like, literally she has the sword on her back and she's trying to go see the fox demon to be like, hey, like, can you break this curse? We're sorry. Like, here's some pie and some wine. And the sword is just like, can you stop calling me Sword? That's not my name. And Ruby's like, well, what's your name? And she's like, it's Alexis. Just like nonsense. But it was so fun, and the sword gets her in trouble because there's this other character that like is out for Ruby, and the sword just won't shut up, and it's just hilarious. It was hilarious. It's 60 pages. It takes I mean, I'm not the fastest reader. It took me an hour and a half to read. And then the next question is the most beautiful books you've bought this year. So I think I said this in my other tag, but The Cartographers, I still have yet to read this book, but oh my God, I'm just obsessed with this cover. I just absolutely love it. I just find it so freaking stunning. There's just something about like the angles, I think, for me, how it kind of looks like it like has a 3D depth to it, and the colors and just everything. I just absolutely love this cover. I think it's so beautiful. I have no idea if I'm gonna like this book. I think I mostly bought it for the cover, but I hope I love it. That way I can keep it in my home instead of having to unhaul it. And then I also just recently picked up Animal Farm, and they had a bunch of copies at my local bookstore, but this is the one that called out to me the most. Also, like, just the pages are just really nice, and I just love how it feels in my hands, and I just think this is also a beautiful book. I don't know that much about this book, but I think it's about animals literally, but it's really about humans and how they treat each other. I'm not really sure, but like, the way the cover is, where it's like, oh, it's an animal in the shadow, but it's really a person. I'm just like, I just feel like that means something, and I love it, and I can't wait to read it and find out. And I'm vegan, like I said, so I'm just like intrigued. I feel like this will kind of support my feelings on life, so we'll see. And then the last question is the books I need to read by the end of this year. And I don't really like have to read anything, but I would love to be able to get to the Poppy War trilogy. I have read the first one, but I do want to reread it and then just binge the rest of them. Since I own them, I would love to get to them this year. If you don't know, which you probably do, this is a very popular series. This book is about Rin. She is a poverty-stricken young woman, and she doesn't want to be sold into a marriage for her like greedy uncle and aunt or whoever is taking care of her. So she studies really hard and gets into this military school, and it's her life learning about war and fighting and combat and also shamanism. A lot of people in this world don't believe in the shamanistic powers, but she meets this, I guess, professor that sees something special in her, and she's unlocking this ability and reaching out to this god to pull down their power. And this is a very dark book, and I imagine a very dark series. Rin makes a lot of decisions that you hate to see her make because you know how much hurt it will cause, but she's very angry at times, and like you can see her motivation, but also you're just like, girl, don't do that, don't do that. It's not good to hold on to this rage and anger and just everything, all these hurtful, painful, you know, in your heart, like. So I was just like devastated after reading the first one. I just really took that to heart because I personally understand like how holding on to rage and like anger and stuff is like really devastating. So yeah, I ended up giving it 4 stars because it like hurt me so bad, but like honestly, maybe because it hurt me so bad, I should have given it 5 stars. So I do want to reread and get to the rest of the series this year. That would be great. And hopefully I don't hate myself because it ripped my heart out. And then, unsurprisingly, I also just want to read more Kennedy Ryan. She is just amazing. So I want to read like as much of her backlist as I can get to this year, and as much as I can emotionally sustain, because emotionally it can be exhausting. All right, so those are all my answers for the mid-year freakout tag. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. Again, let me know down in the comments if you've done a tag. I would love to see it, and hopefully we can get to know each other a little bit better. And I will see you in another video. Bye!